The usual hustle and bustle of the office gradually fades as the employees say their goodbyes. It's December 20th, and almost everyone is excited about the holidays. Daria organizes her documents when her boss, Mr. Maxwell, calls her into his office. Maxwell is cold and abrupt.
You'll stay to work during the holidays. From December 20th to January 1st.
He says in an authoritative tone. Daria knows she can't refuse. She nods slightly and returns to her desk. Back at her workstation, Johansson approaches and suggests going out for drinks to celebrate. Before she can reply, Camille cuts in with a sarcastic remark.
Do you really think Daria's going out? She lives for work.
Kelly, another colleague, scolds Camille and extends the invitation to Daria as well. Daria thanks them for their invitations but explains that Maxwell needs her working. Johansson and Kelly, somewhat embarrassed, wish her happy holidays. Camille, with a venomous laugh, tosses out one last sarcastic comment before leaving. The building falls silent soon after. Daria sits alone at her desk. The office, usually lively, now feels like a strange, cold, and desolate place. Hours later, Tommy, the janitor, shows up to collect the trash. He's a man in his 50s with a heavy gait and a smile that feels forced.
You're staying here the whole time? Huh?
He says, his tone unsettling. Daria barely responds, feeling a chill as Tommy disappears into the darkness of the hallway. The days blur into an endless cycle of work and silence. On December 25th, while the streets lie empty in celebration, Daria begins to notice the office changing when she's alone. The hallway lights flicker more than usual. Shadows in the corners seem to stretch and contract, as though breathing. Daria forces herself to ignore these sensations, chalking it up to exhaustion. But things only get worse. One night, as she reviews reports, a metallic noise echoes from the printer room. She gets up to investigate, only to find the machine operating on its own. A sheet of smeared ink slides out slowly. At first glance, it looks like a meaningless blur, but upon closer inspection, she swears it resembles a face. On another occasion, while sorting through files, she hears footsteps in the hallway.
Tommy?
She calls out, but there's no reply. When she looks toward the entrance of her workspace, she sees a motionless figure, barely visible in the shadows. She blinks, and it's gone. Tommy keeps showing up, more frequently and insistently. One night, as Daria heats up instant soup in the kitchen, Tommy walks in and stands in the doorway, blocking her exit.
Don't you ever get tired?
He asks, his smile unsettling. His tone is friendly, but there's something profoundly disturbing in his gaze. Daria feels trapped. She replies with a curt
No.
And he finally leaves, humming a tune that lingers in the air long after he disappears. The exhaustion and isolation begin to take their toll. Daria starts taking more medication to stay awake, but the side effects grow harder to ignore. She becomes forgetful. One time, she leaves a file on her desk, only to find it in a different spot when she returns. She begins hearing things she can't explain, whispers in the air, soft laughter that seems to emanate from the ventilation ducts. One particularly tense night, Daria hears her name. It's a whisper that seems to come from everywhere at once.
Daria. Daria.
Her heart races as she follows the sound to the conference room. When she steps inside, the light flickers, and she thinks she sees a hunched figure in the corner. She freezes. When the light stabilizes, there's nothing there. The face of the monster from her childhood starts to invade her dreams. It's a humanoid figure with a grotesque, twisted face. At first, she only sees it with her eyes closed, but soon it begins appearing while she's awake. In a moment of paranoia, she checks her reflection in the window glass and sees it standing behind her. She spins around, but no one is there. Even Tommy begins to morph in her perception. Now, she sees him as an extension of the monster. Each interaction with him unsettles her further. His voice becomes a deep, echoing sound, his movements unnervingly fluid and inhuman. Yet, she's unsure if any of this is real or just the effects of her medication. By December 29th, Daria is on the brink of collapse. Her grasp on reality has all but shattered. The office, once a functional space, now feels like a labyrinth of endless hallways and flickering lights, a prison with no escape. That night, Tommy visits her again.
Feeling lonely?
He asks, leaning casually against the doorway to her area. Daria ignores him but can feel his gaze piercing through her. When she finally looks up, he's gone. Yet the air seems heavier, as though his presence still lingers. Hours later, a loud noise echoes from the supply room. Gripping a stapler like a makeshift weapon, Daria cautiously investigates but finds nothing amiss. As she backs away toward her desk, the lights flicker violently, and she catches a glimpse of the humanoid monster at the end of the hallway. It's Tommy, but it's not. His limbs are unnaturally long, his face a horrifying blend of shadows and nightmares. Daria bolts back to her desk, but the creature follows. Its footsteps are heavy, reverberating through the floor. Yet every time she turns around, the hallway is empty. The walls feel alive, closing in on her like a pulsating heartbeat. By New Year's Eve, Daria has had enough. Armed with a kitchen knife from the break room, she roams the office in search of answers, or a way to end the nightmare. Faint laughter draws her to the conference room. Gathering her courage, she steps inside, only to find it empty. On the windows, however, condensation spells out a chilling message, "I'm watching you." As Daria stares at the words, a deep, guttural voice begins to call her name.
Daria, I can see you. I can touch you.
She feels a hand grip her shoulder. Panicking, she wrenches free and spins around, clutching the knife. In the doorway stands the monster, staring at her. A knot of terror forms in her stomach as she screams.
What do you want from me?
The creature's grotesque face appears inches from her ear. In a voice both deep and chilling, it growls.
You.
Daria swings around to confront it, but nothing is there. Suddenly, Tommy lunges at her from the shadows, knocking her to the ground and disarming her. He pins her down, kissing her neck, but in Daria's fractured perception, it's the monster biting her, its sharp teeth tearing into her flesh. Tommy fumbles with her blouse, unbuttoning it. In her mind's eye, the creature is clawing at her chest, drawing blood. Fighting desperately, Daria's foot brushes against the knife. She kicks it toward her hand, grabs it, and begins stabbing Tommy, her monster, repeatedly in the torso. Tommy reels back, his attack stopping as he collapses to the side. She scrambles to her feet, consumed by a mix of terror and fury, and unleashes a brutal assault on the creature. Tommy's voice pleads through the chaos.
Stop, miss. Please, stop.
But all Daria sees is the monster, taunting her.
Come on, little Daria. You're nothing but a lonely, pathetic child. Nobody loves you. You're mine and mine alone. Blinded
by rage and adrenaline, Daria doesn't stop. Her hands, arms, and face are drenched in blood as she drives the knife into him again and again. When the attack is finally over, she staggers to the bathroom. Staring into the mirror, she sees herself covered in a dark, viscous liquid that seems almost alive. She turns on the faucet and leans down to wash it off. When she looks up again, the monster is reflected behind her.
Daria, I'll always be here. Always.
Daria collapses to the floor, hugging her knees and sobbing uncontrollably. Mr. Maxwell arrives at the office. At the entrance, the security guards, Kenny and Luis, greet him.
Good morning, Mr. Maxwell. Hope you had a great holiday.
Kenny asked when she saw Mr. Maxwell.
Very well, gentlemen. And you?
As he glances toward the building's 4th floor, he suddenly frowns.
What the hell?
He mutters.
Didn't Tommy clean the windows?
The glass is fogged up with condensation.
Call Tommy.
He instructs the guards. Luis radios him.
Tommy, report to the entrance.
Tommy, quit fooling around and get to the front.
Kenny repeats. But there's no response.
Maybe he hasn't arrived yet,
Suggests Mr. Maxwell's secretary, July, approaching the scene.
I don't think so. He's old trucks in the parking lot.
Luis replies.
Well, when you find him, send him to my office.
Mr. Maxwell replies. Inside the building, Maxwell and July are greeted by a disorganized workspace. Papers are strewn across desks, and chairs are overturned. Entering Maxwell's office, they stumble upon a gruesome scene. July screams, covering her mouth in shock. On the floor lies Tommy's mangled body. His chest and face have been savagely mutilated. Blood pools beneath him, staining the office carpet. The office building is surrounded by police cars and ambulances. Johansson and Kelly arrive together, alarmed by the scene. When they see the forensic team wheeling out a covered stretcher, Kelly gasps, bringing her hands to her mouth.
Could it be Daria?
She whispers, her eyes brimming with tears. Before they can get any answers, the police escort Daria out in handcuffs. A blanket is draped over her shoulders, her hair is disheveled, and her vacant stare is more unsettling than anything else. Kelly and Johansson are left speechless. They stand frozen, watching as the patrol car drives away, leaving behind unanswered questions and an oppressive silence.